Can you still hear me?
Yes, I can.
All right.
Cool. Let's get started. I already hit record. Is that all right?
Oh
Three,
yeah, that's completely fine.
3, 2, 1. All right. Thank you so much for taking the time, dude. I really, really appreciate it. Ladies and gentlemen, I am joined by Joseph Rothschild, aka MBT. Welcome to the show. How'd I do?
You did pretty good. That's better than I would have done. Hey everybody, excited to talk about my favorite Yu-Gi-Oh format after, of course, traditional, the one true way to play Yu-Gi-Oh.
Of-
I'm super excited to lend my terrible expertise to this.
Excellent. Well, super great to have you. Of course, we need to have the King of Speed Duel here with us
Oh
on
God,
the podcast today. And I know, please tell me that that trophy is displayed right above your bed, right? I think I saw it in the background once. It's not in a storage unit
it
somewhere.
is. No, it is here. Yeah. It is in front of the guest room in our apartment that I used to record.
Awesome.
I am looking at it now, and it is as beautiful as the day I won it by outskilling my opponent by normal summoning Jinzo.
Yeah. Hey, you're not too far off from how competitive works today. But
Exactly. Yeah.
yeah. So I was looking through our contact history because we actually spoke back in October because we did the it was the Road Duel Extravaganza in October, and I remember that you grabbed a couple decks from me and you put a nice article together on YGO Pro Deck,
Yeah.
YGOProDeck.com, and it was a nice little article. Do you still write for them?
I do, but I hate every time it's brought up, I feel bad about it.
Oh,
Technically, I
sorry.
still write for them, but I am so bad at actually ever doing it. I am just way too busy. The way I got away with it in the past was because I was working a 9 to 5. One thing that you can steal time from your employer at if you are working a desk job, which I was, is just opening up a Google Doc and just typing. And someone walks by and they're like, "Oh, that's probably work," and it was like a meta snapshot or something. And now that I don't have all of that time that is kind of free and kind of on the clock, it's really hard for me to put something together. But for as far as speed duels go, I was really frustrated that like the speed duel meta seemed pretty resolved at that time. Like people knew what was good and what wasn't. But unless you were like in one or two very specific discords, it was hard to get a handle on what it actually was. And it was almost impossible to determine from like an advanced player standpoint what was good in this format just because of the way skills work and are so outcome determinative. So I was really, I mean, huge shouts out to you and to everyone who helped me grab lists from, I think I did this for the first couple extravaganzas before I just fell off. But it was a blast. And I'm very happy that I got the list that I did.
Yeah, I'm glad that you took the time to because I think it's always great to put more light on the format, and I always wondered this because one of the reasons why I wanted to have you on certainly is because you have a great perspective on the advanced side, and we know that Speed Duel is kind of seen as the kiddie pool right now, and the product is inconsistent, although I do think it is really awesome. And I just remember, was it the Metal Foes video you did a few days ago? I love the shout out to Speed Duel in this opening skit in the Konami boardroom. They bought the Speed Duel products, but do you think that skills shy people away from the format because it's like something new to learn?
I really don't. Yu-Gi-Oh players will really put up with anything. I mean,
It's true.
if if advanced players survived through like the 6 consecutive firewall formats full of cards that were all a paragraph long and interacted in super unintuitive ways, I think they can wrap their head around pay half your life points, mind control an opponent's monster. But I think the things that are keeping people off speed duels right now is one, and I think this is the big one, which is really frustrating, is just a lack of product. You're spot on about like the product just generally getting better. The first couple of sets, I think everyone kind of understands were kind of lackluster, and until this huge scalping thing happened, I mean, there were attack from the deep boosters on display for years, just rotting on the shelves. But I mean, I was really taken aback by how good the Battle City box was. And, in probably a year and a half of just extremely consistently bad Konami content, it was really a shining light of an extremely fun product. But it's one thing, and if the meta changes once every 6 or 7 months because of the release of new product, it's hard for people to remain excited for that amount of time. I mean, people are mad about a ban list taking 4 months. Imagine like losing to exactly Parasite Paranoid for 2 years. So I think that's the big one. Definitely skills complicate things, but I think less than, skills being hard to learn. It's like the rules surrounding skills and their unrespondability and stuff like that that makes players go, well, okay, I guess I won't deal with it then.
That's true. You're looking at the current meta, like you said, pay half your life points, take a monster, the inner conflict skill. Yeah, the fact that you can't chain that and you're just going to let it happen regardless of how much consistency and a good board setup you have. It's pretty oppressive is the word that I keep hearing, and certainly it kind of disheartening. So I could see that, and yeah, it's funny. Us in the Speed Duel community are always making jokes. It's like, well, maybe Konami will. What if they go to a seasonal release and it's one thing every year, and we all jump on and play it for 2 months, and then it's like, all right, I'm gonna wait. See you guys next year.
See you next season. Yeah.
Yeah, right, exactly. But we're hoping, hearing good things about new products coming on. But you are exactly right about Parasite Paranoid. We are going to hit the 2 year mark in December. Um, and we're hearing rumors about new product coming out in summer. We're hearing maybe fall. So, and I don't think that that engine is so good. You can really just splash those 5 cards. And of course you take up your skill, but you can put that in any deck and it's going to work. So I'm afraid that that's going to be here to stay, but it'll be interesting to see kind of what else they come out, because the Battle City box was such a kind of a meta balancer, and it's not all moth anymore. It's actually very diverse, and it doesn't encourage a lot of creativity. Like, I like the Monarch decks because while you have your archetypes that you can gravitate to, like magnets and XYZ now, you can also just slap a bunch of good staples together and it works. I know that that's not always the best thing, but it does inspire a lot of creativity, so it's been cool. Have you played any this year? I know that you're crazy busy, but have you dabbled in it at all a little bit since October?
Yeah. So the extravaganzas were actually a pretty good opportunity for me because I can't like set aside a day and play Yu-Gi-Oh the entire day, but I can set aside like 30 minutes and lose in round one of a speed duel event. So I'll occasionally jump into those, and the Battle City box is such a cool draft environment. I've had friends over to play stuff, and then of course they want to play constructed afterwards. But I was really shocked actually. I when I was playing in October, it was the Twisted Nightmare structure or whatever, and just the lack of moth. Because I remember when I had been playing like the summer prior, that was all people were playing, and all of a sudden, it wasn't fantastic because it competed for space with like inner conflict. And after, like in the wake of the Battle City box, it's actually been super exciting to see like 5 or 6 really good decks with a lot of like potential to take down a speed duel tournament full of competent players emerge. Like the XYZ deck is so cool. The Monarch deck is such a fan favorite. Like obviously we don't have Mobius, and thank God for that, but like Jinzo, Dark Ruler, I mean these are extremely cool iconic cards. There's just it is very frustrating to watch Yu-Gi-Oh players a lot of the time complain about, as they were like last year, the 2 format deck of Adamancipator and Eldritch, where like right over here there's a second format with 4 or 5 playable decks that all operate on different axes. But yeah, no, I've played a little. Unfortunately, I have gravitated completely towards Monarch because I can't pass up, like, I am going to tribute my spent breaker for a Jinzo. It's just too sweet.
Oh yeah, for sure. Yeah, and I mean Speed Duel is pretty back row heavy right now too. With Zoma the Spirit being really great, and we just got Book of Moon, things like that. So, and Breaker is also a threat though for the back row hate, but it's a great staple. But yeah, now the Monarch deck is great because there are just so many ways you can build it, including, like you said, Dark Ruler was a great one. But I was trying to figure out how we get more people to kind of get into it, because I was going to make a video about this. So the extravaganza in April, we saw 26 events launch for Speed Duel, which beat Structure Deck Freezing Chains. I know that's not an accomplishment, but it also
How could you possibly defeat Structure Deck Freezing Chains?
Oh my god! The funniest thing is that that's the structure deck I bought, thinking I was going to get back into Advanced, and wow, what a horrible!
So sorry to hear that.
Yeah, right. I was like, oh, I remember Brio and Trish. Yeah, oh no, this deck's bad, huh? But anyway,
no, it's the way they've been running structure deck in extravaganzas. It's so funny, by the way. It's like walk to target, buy a structure deck, sleeve it up, and then play it.
Exactly,
it's unreal.
That mat does look cool though. I wonder if
it does. I wanted it so badly.
Yeah, I have to see. Is more getting a circulation. I think is there a new structure deck? I think they're keeping Freezing Chains for May.
they're remaking all the old structure decks at this point.
Oh
So
yeah, we saw the
I
gods.
think Dark World is next. I'm
Oh
so excited for
no,
that.
Dark World came out when I played when it was like my competitive peak. But I was
Oh
playing
wow.
Gravekeepers, so it was okay.
I was gonna say, Dark World was one of the biggest like hyped decks that failed to deliver of all time. So I'm excited to do that again.
Yeah, there you go. Well, I'm thinking so. Speed Duel beat in the last Extravaganza in April. They beat Structure Deck Fusion Chains, and they beat Duel Links in terms of events. And I think
Wait, that's
clear,
that's so cool.
yeah,
Wow.
they beat Duel Links in events as well. I know it's very exciting to see. And then of course Advance took off, but I think that one of the biggest reasons why people started playing a little more Speed Duel. The meta is pretty well established. Like there's 4 or 5 good decks you can play and not feel like you're being completely obliterated if you lose. But also it's these mats, these play mats
Oh,
that they came out of nowhere has
they're so
been
sick.
it's been so great for the game because so you go online I can make an objective financial argument why you should play Speed Duel, and if that's the way we got to do with the way we got to go to get more people to play the game, then so be it. Because you look on eBay, and of course there's let's say there's 26 mats in public circulation right now from that, and they're mostly
Mhm.
Kaiba because who got the Yugi one. I see that on eBay for $250. Actually, there's a great article that came out yesterday by I think the guy's name's Dan Parker on TCG Player. They kind of highlighted some of the Extravaganza stuff and also indicated that, yeah, there's like over $300 in prize support here for winning one of these. If you won all 26, then that's math. But the Duel Links coin, you get that too. That's like 30, $40, And of course, these are great collector's items, and I hope that people play to own it and have it and cherish it forever. But some people are going to play speed duels for that way, and I hope that any way that the community can kind of get that info out there to get more people to play it, at least in these extravaganzas, is fantastic because I don't think that everybody is aware of that. And it's just really cool to see because it's showing Konami that there is more interest for the game because it was like March, April that we were nervous. It does seem like more products going to come out. But there was a period where we were like, do they know that we still play this and we like this? So
It's so weird watching the mats, by the way, just are the coolest thing ever. They're so absolutely bonkers. But it's so funny watching them go for like 500 just because, I mean, realistically, only about 30 of them can have been shipped, right?
right,
Even though I'm sure they have thousands, in the back, and we'll be getting this as a prize for the next 8 years.
true.
But it's so frustrating because the number one issue, which I've always said with speed duels, outside of the product releases, which have been they were generally fine early on. Um, it pivoted from a lack of care put into what was put in the pack to a lack of product, period. Uh, but the biggest problem, it feels like, is just there's not events running, right? Like you couldn't go to an OTS and be like, hey, I want to play speed duels this weekend. What's the deal? Them just opted out, which sucks because the product is really sweet. Like the original Speed Duel mat, the Bones mat, the Trials of the Kingdom sneak for Europe players, they're all just killer. They're super
Hmm.
sweet. And this new one is just another in a long line of really cool product that the entry point to start winning it is so low. And I do wish people would take it a little bit more seriously.
And to your point, walking into a local game store wanting to play speed duel, and I'm lucky enough to have one that ran speed duels before, and they will when things open up. Obviously, COVID crippled everything, but yeah,
Mm.
it's true because speed duel. I think more people will be into it if they realize that. Oh no, I went X3, X4, and oh, speed duels is going on over here in this corner. All right, how much is a deck? $40. Okay, that sounds good. That's compared to like the 900 to 1300 advanced decks that we're seeing now. Spending 40 to 60 might not be a bad deal. And to the product release point, the one thing that product release has in its favor is that it's not a deck that you would necessarily have to update frequently, because you spend the $60 one time and you got your Interconflict Monarch deck and good or Moth, and good chance that even through the new release it's still gonna you're bringing in more Monarchs. Interconflict isn't going to go anywhere, and it's not something that you
Mhm.
necessarily have to maintain and sink more money into, and then you're all of a sudden equipped to play in an LGS that's doing it as a side event or its own event.
Yeah, no, I totally agree. The last time I played was before COVID, in like person, of course. I mean, just like everyone else. And I built Interconflict Monarch, and I've sunk maybe $10 into it as new product gets released, and it is. I mean, it's up to date. It's the maintenance on this stuff is nothing.
Yeah, and I can't speak to the maintenance on some of like the cutting edge advanced stuff. And then of course, if you're using EDO Pro or Dueling Book, then it's for free. But
Hmm.
yeah, for Speed Duel, like it's really not that, but just the barrier to entry is so low. Come on, guys. Don't want to come off as desperate here, but the community is making huge things happen, and it's global too because we just saw Trials of the Pharaoh promotional stuff get announced in France, and they're looking to fill kind of a Speed Duel director role in both Europe and North America because they understand that there is serious interest and support on both
Oh,
sides.
that is really good to hear
Yeah.
because when the last person left, I was like, that's the end of Speed Duel. And then we got the rumor that we were getting more product, and I was like, okay, all right, let's go. Maybe it was just one of those COVID casualties, and we'll get it back.
I think so because Matt Bell was his name and he left in September of 2020, and the
Hmm.
Battle City box really did seem like the finale. Like it was
Hmm.
all that he wanted to put into the next product, and instead of maybe if he were to have continued his role there, maybe it would have been sprinkled out over three products. But it really seemed like they put it all together as one finale, which scared the crap out of us because we want to keep playing the game. But yeah, there are quite a few rumors going on right now, and one of them is that Konami is filling for Europe and North America. And these ongoing promotional events is great to hear.
Yeah, no, for sure.
Yeah.
I'm really excited to see, you know, if there is a future for speed duels. Because if you would ask me this at this time last year, I'd be like, well, I'm excited for the Battle City box.
Right. Exactly. Yeah, we all thought that was, we wanted to get the maximum enjoyment out of it, and I think that it's going to be one of those timeless products, right? Because it's like a board game. I mean, sure, there are some decks where you put XYZ against, what did I have? Beast Warriors, and it's like, yeah, I'm going to flop. Oh no, I actually had the Jinzo deck that just couldn't get the momentum.
Thank you
But
for your Jinzo, by the way.
yeah, you're
No,
welcome.
it is a fun product. The XYZ deck and the Magnet deck are maybe a little unbalanced for sealed play, but yeah, no, it is a blast to draft with friends.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. So one other thing I wanted to talk to you about, and this might be out of left field. What do you think about Rush Duel coming over? That's another rumor that's coming on, is that Rush Duel, they patented it last year and it's coming in the summer. And I did some research, through some of your past stuff. I don't think I've heard you talk about Rush Duel
Uh,
really at all, and I wanted to know what you were thinking
hey,
about it.
I've literally played Rush Duel one time. I think I played it with Hardleg on a deck build challenge. And I remember I just wiped him, but that was as soon as the structures had come out. Rush Duel is interesting to me. I will certainly be playing it because I imagine no, it won't like cost too much.
Yeah.
Since so much of the early product is just in constructed like set releases, but it strikes me as sort of a middle ground because I think Konami's on record saying that Speed Duel was invented to be a sort of shortcut to advanced play for a lot of players. And while the people that I have introduced Speed Duel to, some of them have gone on to be like, oh, now I want to play advanced. A lot of them are completely fine just sitting in Speed Duel. There's one of the problems with retention in Yu-Gi-Oh! And one of the reasons that new players don't play it is because not only is there such an unbelievable monetary cost, there's also this huge mental load where, like, before you play your first game of Advance, you have to have memorized like 300 or 400 individual cards. Like, you have to be playing with respect to Ash and Gamma from the outset. You have to know what the choke points in, like Eldritch and Dragon Link and Dinosaur are from the outset, and it's really hard, you know. Whereas in older formats, like, I don't want to be like Goat is easy or anything, because obviously it's one of the most skill testing formats of all time. But in formats like Goat or Goat adjacent stuff like Speed Duels, a lot of the plays are intuitive. You see a Jinzo and you're like, oh, right, well, now I have to play respective of the Jinzo. You don't, from the outset need to have every card in your opponent's deck memorized. So I think that what Konami saw was that Speed Duels wasn't very good at teaching players to learn the skills necessary for advanced, and therefore wasn't a really good transition product. So I would like to see um, speed duels and rush duels treated as their own independent like way to play the game or format, like like Magic the Gathering has like Legacy and Modern, but care is given to them not as a gotcha way to get you into advanced, but as an individual product. And I think the success of rush duels is going to depend on how much it's treated as its own entity instead of how much it's treated as a gateway to advanced.
Yeah, looking at Rush Duel coming in, yeah, I totally agree because Speed Duel is not. It's really just. It's a relapse machine for nostalgic players. That's what it was for me.
Mm.
That's what it'll be for a lot of people. That's what I continue to see be for a lot of people. They're like, oh, I wanted to get into advanced, and then I almost quit because I didn't know what was going on. But then I found Speed Duel, and I don't think that while it has got me certainly since I started playing Speed Duel, it's gotten me more back into the realm of Yu-Gi-Oh and the community and what's going on in product releases. I have the understanding that it would take a significant amount of time to completely get back into it, knowing all of the things that you have to know for the game. Whereas Speed Duel is like, you the most complicated cards in Speed Duel is like Sphere Haribo because it's like our only hand trap, and then like Parasite Paranoid is kind of complicated, I
It's
suppose.
complicated because everyone has the foreign copies.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Of course.
You have
Of course.
no, absolutely. And I think Konami has recognized that rather than be like a relapse machine for nostalgia players to get back into advanced, it can be, its own entity. Like you're making content for YouTube about Yu-Gi-Oh! You're in a Yu-Gi-Oh! Community. You are talking about this card game that they made with your friends. And that is what they want, not a means to an end for you to buy like the Ghost from the Past, set. Um, I hope that Rush Duel is treated with that care from the outset. It seems like it scratches a similar itch. It's meant to like evoke the feeling of playing Yu-Gi-Oh! Instead of like iconic cards, you get to draw 15 cards a turn and summon your entire hand. And that's sort of how like anyone who grew up with Yu-Gi-Oh! In 2012
Yep.
conceptualizes it. So, it's Speed Duel but for the Zoomers.
Exactly. Yeah, exactly. It's like, just gonna normal summon this 7-star on the carpet in my bedroom playing against my friend in 5th grade. That's
Hmm.
exactly what Rush Duel is gonna feel like, I think. And one other thing that I'll say is that it's even Speed Duel, but Rush Duel when it comes out, it's always nice to get in kind of on the ground floor or something. And
Hmm.
Speed Duel, it's the timeline is not that long. It hasn't even. It's
Hmm.
been 2 years maybe, but to get into advanced is a lot of work and preparation and kind of understanding a lot of different cards and decks, and of course everything stacks. But with Speed Duel, it's if you get in, even if you got in right now, and you just paid attention to what was coming out in the meta and how it changed and shifted, and you kind of build your knowledge on top of it, then it all of a sudden becomes much less intimidating. And at the same time, it's going to continue to teach you, like if you've never played Yu Gi Oh! At all, it's continuing to teach you great fundamentals, more or less,
Hmm.
outside of like Xyz and pendulums and links. Great fundamentals on how to build knowledge and strategize playing a card game in general. So I think the Rush Duel is going to be a good one there. It's definitely different enough where I don't even think about, oh, this makes me want to play Advanced when I played Rush Duel. And I will be more excited when it's physical because the cards look super great. And yeah, being able to draw your whole hand and just play a bunch of stuff. And it's definitely a different mindset because you got to think about how so many cards recycle cards back into the deck. So it's okay that you blow everything.
Hmm.
It's definitely going to be a fun one, I think, to see.
I remember in the structure deck format for Rush Duel, there was a card that was like discard two cards from your hand, like a monster you control gets like 200 attack. I was like, this is the worst card I've ever seen, and then I talked to some people and they were like, yeah, we're considering banning that card. It's simply too strong. It lets you unload your hand and then you draw 5 cards the next turn. It just determining what's good in that format is completely foreign to me. So I've basically stayed out of Rush Duel content because I don't want to be that wrong about what's
Yeah.
strong or not.
Yeah, it's going to take some time. It totally turns around your thinking. Like, why would I want to discard? Yeah. Oh, wait, I'm drawing 5 cards, and if I don't basically dump my whole hand, then I lose the value of drawing more cards. Just like things like that turns around your thinking. Um,
Like folks, if you haven't seen, Pot of Greed is in Rush Duel and it's terrible.
it was that recent because I don't think I've
Uh,
played it for like a couple months.
It's recent, but it's a legend, and you can only have one legend spell in your deck. And why would you waste it on a card that draws you two cards? You draw 5 cards a turn.
Yeah, that's right. Just put the blue eyes in there. The blue eyes, red eyes, dark
Exactly.
magician. Those are the legends that were at the start. It's a legend. That's ridiculous. Oh
So
my
funny.
god.
It's
You're
hilarious.
gonna see those pot of greed loyalists
Mm.
just playing. Oh my gosh. Yeah, that'll be a fun one to see. Hopefully we'll hear more about that coming up, and coming to the States, and I think that timeline, along with new Speed Duel product, hopefully lines up with some restrictions being unlifted for some physical play, which will be cool. Are you so? Just want to talk a little bit more about you because you're so fascinating to me. Because I gotta compliment your work ethic, and looking at some of your videos, you can tell, as somebody that's been doing this for a couple of years, also you can tell the time and the effort that it comes into. And even looking at like 10-minute testing, where it's like you got a skit, then you got deck building, then you have deck testing. I've seen YouTubers break that into 3 videos, and they all do very well.
Mm.
And
I should
so
break that into three
there you
videos. Thank
go.
you.
There you go.
You've
Well, I was
you've revolutionized my content.
well, it's funny because I saw, I think it was the Metal Foes one that you said that you were looking to you were thinking about changing how you presented it. And I wanted to kind of explore that and see what you're up to. You just had a huge kind of testing period, obviously, going to school for law, which is probably one of the most demanding things to do while trying to do everything that you do. So what's next for you?
I don't know. I
Yeah.
don't know, man. No. I remember. I don't know. The law school thing has been very difficult, and I'm currently neglecting uh, a lot of the things that I'm supposed to be doing for that in terms of like finding work. Uh, but it, I would say that. So a lot of my content has just been like inventing a series of content that is hard enough to do that I absolutely must keep to a schedule. I'm really bad about like just losing a couple hours scrolling on Twitter or something, and I'm making enough stuff now that it's almost impossible for me to do that anymore, which is great. But it is also very frustrating to be making the content that I am making. I remember I got like a consultation with Team APS because they used to do this where they'd look at your channel and tell you, what you should do.
Wow.
And it was a really cool service. And if they're still doing it, it was super cheap. But they were like, so walk me through 10-minute testings, which at the time was like my flagship series or whatever. They were like, walk me through 10-minute testing. And I did. And they were like, how long are you spending on these? And I'm like, well, from conception to finish, this is like maybe 10, 15 hours of work. And they were like, that is not sustainable. I was like, what do you mean? And they were like, well, you're putting 3 of these out a week. Like, this
Wow.
isn't going to work the way you want. And so since then, I have had to kind of come to terms with the fact that like you can't do it all. And the Metal Foes 10-minute testing is it's 2 things. Firstly, it is a reconceptualization of how I make 10-minute testings. Instead of doing 2 or 3 a week, I want to make one that I feel really good about and gets very in depth. And the second thing is it is a type of content that is completely divorced from 10-minute testing except for the name. Because, at the start, 10-minute testing was something I would do, and then people came to the channel to see it, and then I'm like, okay, and now I want to make a type of content that will not kill me. So I'm gonna have to trick people into watching things that are called 10-minute testings, but maybe aren't 10 minutes. That's the deal. In terms of what I'm doing for the future, I don't know. At the end of law school, I will make a decision.
Yeah.
I think likely what's going to happen is I'm going to law school to become a public defender. I think the majority of law is bar ethics committee. Do not watch this video. I think the majority of law is really disgusting. I think it exists to, specifically keep people in prison for an amount of time that makes it profitable to make money off their free labor. And I think public defense is probably the best way to prevent people from going to jail for like mandatory minimums. Uh, but one of the upsides of a public defender program is that while it's a lot of work while you're there, it's while you're there. Like, and you go home and then you have a life outside of work. Whereas, like, if you were working in big law, you get calls from people who are like, hey, you mind picking this up all day and all night every week. So I think the idea is the YouTube will exist in some capacity. I would like to get a 10-minute testing and an additional video out a week. I would like to keep streams up post graduation, but we'll see. There's still time for me to completely drop out. Still waiting on my finals grades. I'll do YouTube full time, and you'll see me doing pack openings like Logan Paul in 6 months.
That was my next question. Just a little fun one is if you had no obligation to school and your career prospects and all you were gonna do, you made a decision. All you were gonna do was this. All right, moving forward, how would you structure that? What would we see totally different?
Uh,
That's a loaded
shit.
question.
Well, so this is what I did at the start of COVID because I was furloughed from my job and I was like, oh, I'll just do YouTube full time at a time that I had like 15K subs. It was not a good idea, but it ended up working out. Um, I think you would see a lot of similar stuff to what you see now. At the time uh, that I was doing it full time, the Chalice Slime Monthly, which is the tournament that I run uh, on Edo Pro Live, it was 64 people cap, but it was weekly. Like I would do it every weekend, and that sucked. But I would definitely have tried to keep that up. Um, I would still be making 2 or 3 10-minute testings a week, and I guess the extra videos would look pretty similar to the way they look now. Yeah, it would just be more of the same content. So realistically, I don't know how much how much better the channel would get if I was full time.
Do you ever feel like there's just so much Yu-Gi-Oh? Do you ever have a feeling of like, shoot, what am I gonna do this week?
Oh, I feel like that on stream a lot. Uh, my streams have been more successful the less Yu-Gi-Oh I play.
That's good,
So
right?
I'll load up. It's good. But I'll load up stream sometimes and I'll be like, shit, what am I gonna do? And I feel that way for 10-minute testings too a lot of the time, just because there's not a lot of good decks in advanced. They're just aren't. And now that I'm taking more like care with the actual videos, I don't want to waste it on just like some garbage archetype that Konami printed as pack filler. And for the past year, that's pretty much all they've printed is garbage
Yeah.
pack filler archetypes. Like I could make the 4th TMT on Dolls, the 3rd on Dinosaur, the 5th on Eldritch, and I'm like, I don't really want to do that. That sucks.
Yeah, yeah, I can see that. Man, well, it's good that it seems that a lot of people are watching you for you at this point, and you could totally become one of those guys that just watches. You could take your stream anywhere. You got a great following, and your Twitter presence is fantastic. And you're super funny. I actually went back to one of your videos like 4 years ago, like your second or third video, just to because I couldn't believe that you were always this funny and well presented, and I was wrong. I was wrong, and I think that that'll transfer well into whatever you do in law.
I
It's
hope so. If nothing else, it's practice.
exactly great practice. Public speaking and performance is always a great skill to hone. Well, I appreciate you taking the time, sharing that, and we talked about some speed duel too, which is that's what I wanted to accomplish. So I think we're good. Any last things you want to let the speed duel community know? Any other closing remarks that you have today?
I guess I would say to the non-Speed Duel community, seriously, the barrier to entry for this format is nothing. Please just go online, buy $15 worth of Monarch cards, and guess what? You are now the greatest player in the Speed Duel format. To the Speed Duel community, please stop beating me in extravaganzas. I have to get one of the mats, and all of you are much better at Yu-Gi-Oh than I am.
That's great to hear. Hopefully, I'll see you in a couple weeks for Maze. And yeah, like you said, that mat, I think we're going to see that as prize support for a while. So
Fuego.
hoping to get one of each here. And yeah, for those of you that are just in it for the money, well, hey, join this next one because you might be able to offload that for $200. So anyway, thank you, MBT, for joining me. I appreciate the time taken out of your busy schedule. And everybody, thank you so much for watching, and we will catch you guys later.